Good afternoon, or good morning even. My name's Mike Redford. I'm the CEO of AddMovement, and I do understand Swedish, so if you want to ask questions later, I can take those in Swedish as well. But it's easier for me to speak English. Otherwise I sound a bit like Tony from Let's Dance, Men, all the time. So we're repositioning personal mobility. What we're looking at is actually saying to people that actually you can feel more comfortable on an ad seat than, say, a Permobil or something else, and actually change the way people feel about themselves. The idea came from Marit Sundin. Marit Sundin is a Paralympic skier. She's won gold, and she saw the Segway and thought, that's a really cool idea. I'd like to use one of those, and then realised she had no legs, so maybe she needed to have a seat on there. So she came up with the idea of actually putting a seat on a Segway, and there's two sides to it. One is that you actually get a seat that people feel comfortable with, and also it makes people think, yeah, this is a really cool idea. You actually change the way people perceive you. So we launched AddMovement in 2012 because what happened is she saw the seat and people saw the seat and they said, I'd like one of those as well. So we realised there was an idea for a company. Started selling in Scandinavia and Holland in 2014, so sales in Norway and also in Holland and Denmark. And she won the Swedish Innovator of the Year award in 2014-15, and now part of the Swedish Technical Museum's Megamind exhibition, which is rather lovely. Around 2015, she realised that the company needed to move up a level. She asked me to get involved, and I put together a new team. And the idea of the team was actually to scale it up, get it ready for mass production, and also for the global market. So we ended up going in 2015 to ReaCare in Düsseldorf. And that was extremely successful for us because that's where we started picking up some new distributors and started to see that actually there was a demand for our product around the globe. We started marketing globally in 2016, and we've been selling into the US with a couple of dealers, and into Germany and into Australia, and also across the world if someone wants to buy directly from us. We try to stay away from that for the moment. And then in 2017, my new design engineer joined in, and we're starting to work on some new designs where we're going forward. Now, we'll talk about our customer base. There's around 10 million wheelchair walking frame users in Europe, similar in the USA. Taking 5% of those, we think there's a distinct possibility of 1 million devices being sold across Europe and similar in the US. Our plan is to aim to sell around 4,000 units per year by 2021. To give you a comparison, Permobil, they sell around about 5,000 units, and their market is purely disability. Our market is much broader now, and I'll explain a little bit more as we go through. What we see is three markets, one offering. We see this good product. People who have got limited funds have actually got a little bit of money themselves, but don't get any state support. Then we've got a lifestyle group, people who were willing to pay a lot of money. Traditionally, these type of people are amputees or MS users, people who've been in work, and they've got money and they actually want to buy a product that makes them feel really good and comfortable about being handicapped. Because one of the key things of most people is we actually walk into a store, if someone's in a Permobil or a wheelchair, the person will talk to the person next to them if it's someone in the shop. They don't talk to the person in the seat. What happens with the ad seat is actually talk to the person sitting on the seat, and I'll come a little bit more to that. Then we've also got the reimbursement market, which of course was the ISO 13485 standard and the FDA Class 2 approval, and we're now working on that. So we defined it into three groups: good, better and best. The current product is what we call our better product. That's the product we have now. We're actually about to see it outside because we actually brought one with us, and we've been selling that. It sells for around 130,000 euros, 130,000 Swedish crowns, 13,000 euros, around £13,000, $13,000, that sort of thing. Depends on taxes as well in the local market. And we've sold around 60 units now. So in other words, people have actually parted with their own money. There's no subsidies, people have actually paid for it. And that to me is a very good indication that there's actually a demand for our product. We also see in the good market that actually there's a lot of people who would like to have our product because everybody who sees it and tries it thinks it's fantastic. But not a lot of people can afford it at that sort of price. So we need to bring a product out at a lower price. And then we've got the best product, which is the one we're looking for the medical side. And that will be a little bit more expensive. And if we compare it to a Permobil, which we'll look at shortly, we'll see the price difference is significant to us. So how do we find a product that's affordable and flexible for the good? What we need to make sure is that it allows people to get around. One of the key things is going to stores, you're trying clothes. If you're in a large permobile or four-wheeled vehicle, it's very difficult. This, you can get right up to it. If you're in a store, the variable height on the seat, and you'll see that a little bit later in the film, it allows you to come up higher as well, so you can reach up to things. That changes the whole perception of where you are. It also goes on difficult terrain, beach, woodland, uneven ground, cobblestones. We've got a customer who's gone to Gotland 2 years ago. They had to get a taxi from the restaurant to actually go to the hotel or whatever. Here, our customer, big and fantastic lady, she just basically just went straight out of the restaurant and went off and did some shopping. Her husband went and did something else. It changes people's lives as well. It's not just about the transport, it's about lifestyle. And again, you're not dependent on public transport. We've got a fantastic guy here called Roman. He's a paraplegic. He's got the traditional wooden legs. He's 80 plus. I met him and his grandson, and his grandson was so excited about his grandfather. And most people, you think of someone who's disabled at 80 years old, that they wouldn't have this relationship. His friends see his grandfather whizzing around Stockholm, on the underground, off the underground, and all of a sudden he thinks his grandfather's cool. Totally different relationship. So it's not just about mobility, it's about what happens up here, not just for the person on the seat, but the people around them. Then we've got the next group, which is basically the lifestyle ones, the Harley Davidson, people like myself. I'm coming up to 60, I'm going to buy a cool motorbike, I'm going to go and buy a cool motorbike. This is exactly the same for someone who's handicapped. And we can put alloy wheels on it, which we do. We can do it in chrome. We can do all sorts of things. We can pimp it up. And we get people asking for that. We got Ferrari Red. The machine you'll see out there is Ferrari Red. It's one of our customers asked for a Ferrari Red. OK, we do it Ferrari. We can do it in British Racing Green if you want it. So there are a lot of people who have got money and they want to spend it on looking cool. We will help them do that. So that's another market for us. Then, of course, we've got the ISO standards and the FDA standards. So we've been in conversations with people at the FDA and also with the ISO standards, and we can go under ISO Class 1 and the FDA Class 2 with a vehicle. And so we're actually going through that process, and I'll show you the team in a moment, and we've got someone who's an expert in that particular area as part of the team. Our marketplace. There are three areas. You've obviously got the traditional wheelchair, and this is to give you an idea of what it can cost you for a wheelchair. There are people spending $10,000 on a wheelchair. It doesn't, you've still got to work, you've still got to do everything. The Permobile starts at around $25,000. This particular model here, the M5 Corpus, and goes up to 50 as a base. Once you start adding things onto there, the price really goes up. But these are actually taken off the Permobile's website and also the Elite rigid one as well. So it's exactly their prices. Marketplaces, where are we at? Well, we're selling into Sweden now. We sell into Norway, selling into Denmark. We've got 2 dealers in the US who are working with us. And the strategy has been to take 1 dealer in each country to find out what the problems are, what's the market like, do people like the product, are there anything specific? For example, in Germany, we've got the TUV for the road regulations, so we have to go through that regulatory procedure. America is slightly different. There's less regulation there. Sweden's a lot less regulation, unusual for Sweden. I'm so bored with the regulation, it's unbelievable. But actually, it's one of the things where there's less regulation. Norway is no problem at all. Denmark is no problem as well. So it's been very interesting for us to see that, A, we've got the medical side, but we've also got the road traffic rules as well that we need to find. In the United Kingdom, well, we don't distribute at the moment there because the Segway itself is not allowed to be on the road and it's not allowed to be on the pavement, because you can't have an electric vehicle on the pavement and you can't have this vehicle on the road. But as an invalid vehicle, we can do it. So we're looking at how we do that properly in the UK. But that market's been, we've had a lot of inquiries from the UK, so we know that market's strong for us. And we've also been asked to speak in the United Arab Emirates. We'll be down there in November because there's a big effort by the Prime Minister there to actually make Dubai the most handicap-friendly city in the world. And so we've been asked to go down there and present our product, which is really exciting for us. So as you can see, this is the number of wheelchair users in each of the countries. It's a phenomenal number. So if we're talking about selling 4,000 units by 2021, I think we're understating what our opportunity is, because we're only here focusing on the handicap market. There's the ageing population as well, people who are over 60 plus who want to get around and about. We see that as a very strong market for us as well. And again, it's just going to come. but we're not overemphasizing what we're saying, what we think is realistic, and comparing ourselves to Permobil, and I think that's a sensible place to be. Current pricing structure means that we've got a margin around 20% on the fixed or fitted seat, because basically we were buying in a Segway unit and converting it. Where we actually just sell without the power unit, where we get people, for example, MS users, they will buy a standing Segway and we want us to convert it so that as their illness becomes worse, then they can actually go to a sitting solution as well. So we've actually sold that as a product separate. With the new cost savings that we'll have with our own power unit, which we're working on now, that will bring us 40% as a gross margin, and without the power unit around 50%. What have we done so far? Well, we got one base model. It's sold with or without the Segway. And we've basically got to a point now where we feel really confident about where we can go, and that we feel confident about dealing with the ISO standards and the FDA standards. Because the FDA's and the ISO standards, FDA specifically, is that if we don't have the controls in place, they will shut you down. So what we've done is we've brought in people to actually make sure that we set everything up correctly and we build correctly. We've got control of every component comes in. We've got the history of what's going on. At the moment, we're currently doing a funding round. We're funded by me, and we're looking for 3.1 million Swedish krones. We're already at around 60% of that now, and we think that will close quite quickly. And then later on, what we're looking to do is in 2018 is either a trade sale or IPO. We think trade sale is definitely a possibility for us. We've got a very highly engineered product. It's built here in Sweden. It's engineered here. And we assemble here. For the US, we will actually start shipping to the US and assemble in the US because of these. It saves on freight costs, etc. And we need to keep the price competitive. And our dealers regard it as the best in its class, which is rather nice. We've got an ongoing development team, and we've got some fantastic design engineer with us. It says 50 units now. We're at 60 units. I've just had an order in from Austria for another 4 units today. And we've been winners of numerous awards. OF actually gave us an award of Entrepreneurial Business of the Year last year, I think it was. And we've been in production for 5 years. And that makes it very interesting. You had a company here called Saab that went bust. And what did they sell very quickly? It was their spare parts company. We know that our machines have been out there for 5 years. We've seen where the problems are. We know what needs to be serviced on them. And we see a very interesting curve as far as spare parts sales in the future as well, which is very useful for us. And it helps on things like funding as well. This is our team. I'm the CEO at the moment. I'm also the majority owner of the company. The plan is that Rolf Erdmark, who's on there, he will become our CEO. He's ex-Scania. He was Global Benefits Director, so he's used to a global, because we are a transport company at the end of the day. We're a vehicle producer. So he's got fantastic expertise and knowledge and contacts, which is useful. Ian Thompson's our Chief Designer. He's now working for Karma Automotive. If you have a look at Karma Automotive, they make the most fantastic electric cars, really cool. They're owned by Wang Xiang, who are one of the largest components manufacturers in the world and supply most of the car manufacturers in the world, which is fantastic for us. He also has given us a really good link in now to a Japanese company, and we'll be looking at enhancement for the seat, where we can actually monitor people's body's temperatures and all sorts of things that we can actually take from the seat, which will be useful. Andreas Hub, he's an expert in man-machine interface and worked specifically with the blind. You think, well, actually, this is a bit strange that someone with the blind. But actually, if you make something that's easy tactile, it actually makes it much better for people to ride on. And we've actually had blind people actually using the ad seat. And to be honest with you, it's fantastic to have their confidence to actually use our ad seat, which is really exciting. Christopher Bunderson, he won the Young Finest Business of the Year award in 2012. Very talented young individual. He actually hurt his back, so he had to shut his own business down. So he's actually got an understanding why the seat is important for people, which is incredibly useful. Monica Sunderling, she's our expert in ISO 13485. She's used by Sverdak and also the Norwegian equivalent. So she's an extremely knowledgeable and expert person for us. Millis has joined us as he's got his master's in sales and marketing, very talented. And of course, Marit is part of the team. She's testing our products all the time. And then we use a company up in Jämtland to actually do our production engineering. We've separated our design engineering from production engineering, because it's very easy to make something once, but when you're talking about mass production, we need to make sure that our design engineers make it correct for production engineering and scaling up. So that is the Add seat. It's a fantastic product. I must admit, I get excited every time I see it, and every time I get an opportunity to demonstrate it, and I love the reaction we get from people, not just the people sitting on the seat, but the family around them. There are so many wonderful stories of people just changing their lives, and we're going to show you the video a little bit later on, and you'll get an idea of how it feels. But it's a wonderful, wonderful product, and we're now in the US. We've got an event, Health 2, we've been invited to. We're part of Scorner Innovations Fast Track for the US as well, so we get fully support out of Scorner. So for us, it's a fantastic moment in time, and I hope that more people will support us in what we're trying to do. So I assume you have some questions for me.
Thank you, Mike, for a nice and interesting presentation. You were talking about how this Add seat chair actually can boost the user's confidence.
Yes.
I mean, I bet my confidence would be boosted if I drove Maserati.
Yes.
So, and the designer, former Maserati designer.
Yes.
How did you pick him up for the project?
It was actually I had a business magazine, and I met Rolf Erdmark at Stockholm Open, and we started talking. And I said it'd be really good. Jämtland's fantastic; it's full of really creative people. Very, good. Why don't you move Scania's designers up to Jämtland? Because it's a perfect place. It's winter and it's summer. You can test your vehicle. He said, what a good idea. Oh, maybe we should have a conference. So I said, okay, I'll go back to Jämtland. We organised a conference. And as part of this conference, Ian Thompson, who's the designer, he knew somebody, and they invited him over to speak at our conference. And of course, I met Ian and went, wow, you're an interesting guy. Let's swap business cards. And then the rest is history. All of a sudden, a year ago, I asked him to be part of our advisory board, which he said yes to. And then I got an email from him in January and said, Mike, I'd like to design your Add seat for you. And I went, okay, I'll suffer you if you want.
That's fine by you.
Exactly. And so he became part of the team. And it's really perfect timing for us, because where he's at is now at Karma Automotives, and his expertise and his contacts has really opened it up for us. And that's why we're here now, is that we realise that we've now got a product that really we should be scaling up.
Mm. And as far as the design goes, is that also a key part of your way to differentiate from competitors? Because there are a few competitors out there.
Absolutely. There are 4 or 5 companies that I would say are good competitors to us, and actually it's interesting. We all meet at various trade fairs, etc. And we all have a slightly different niche in the marketplace, but our product is different to theirs, significantly different. One is the variable height, and that makes a heck of a difference. The others none of them have got that facility on there. And the other part is also the slide. You will be able to see it on the video. But basically, when you're stopping this, there's no braking, it's just your body weight that does it. And ours actually glides, and it allows you to brake faster. It also means you can go into mountain areas, because when Marit designed it, she was living in Aura, and she needs to get out in the snow. So we know that for example, in Switzerland, one of our competitors, people don't buy it because you actually can't go up the hill, because its parking stand doesn't allow that. So ours is a very robust outdoor product. But I'll give you another example. We got a customer in New York, George Gagliano, who actually advises New York City on handicap facilities. Mm-hmm. He said, most exciting part for him, he said, okay, it's a very urban product, and it's great to go around in lifts and everything else, it's not a problem. But he actually went to Central Park and went out on the grass. He's never been on the grass in Central Park. Changed his whole view of New York. He could actually go to Central Park. And he said, and when you hear these stories, and for us, you go, oh, yeah, you can go, you walk out on the grass. It just changed his life. And he said, it's fantastic. And I think that's the thing I think is so exciting about it. So, yes, we have got competitors, but I think our product is differentiated enough. It's not just about the way it looks. It's not just about being pretty. It's actually got some functional advantages over the other products. And I'm going to say one of the other things we are working with, a Japanese company, we will be starting to look at, in the actual seat, we'll be able to monitor what's going on. So we've actually monitored the person's driving. And that leads us into something else, which is I would be in contact with VTI here in Sweden.
Oh, yeah?
And they're interested in us getting involved in their projects in mobility generally. So we'll be part of that process as well.
That's interesting. And market-wise, there is enough space for another player in the field?
Well, it's interesting. We actually had that. There's, as I say, the 4 manufacturers that we've got a relationship that we talk to. We all basically said if we all manufactured at full effort, we still wouldn't cope with the actual potential demand. So we don't see ourselves as competitors. We actually see we need to be there. We can't just be one of us, because if we're carrying the marketing budget for this, the money we're raising, we wouldn't go anywhere. But if you've got different companies doing different things in this marketplace, it lifts the whole marketplace. So for us, competitors is actually a really good thing.
Yeah. And there's another Swedish company from Jämtland as well, Permobil.
Yes.
Is that the brightest shining star in this segment?
Yeah, I mean, Permobil is as a story is fantastic. They actually start in the same factory as we actually assemble at the moment. They have done a fantastic journey over 45 years. We're trying to do exactly the same as them in 4 years. They were sold back in 2013 for 5.1 billion turnover. So sales 5.1, and the sales were 1.6 billion. So it's we as a story, it's fantastic, and I think we can learn a lot from their journey. About
just make it 10 times faster.
10 times faster, and also what they did was they've now moved their manufacturing to the US. And one of the things we're looking at now, I've got 2 of the guys, Rolf and Millers, are both in the US at the moment, and we're looking at how our assembly there and also our distribution there, because we will go for direct sales. Following Permobil model, they sell directly as well, which is Europe is a bit different because each of the countries has got issues with different rules and regulations. So dealers are quite useful in Europe. But the US is one market, one language, and I got an advantage there.
Yeah.
They do understand me.
Yeah. And your current crowdfunding financing round is looking to go well.
Yes.
And you're hoping to close at the maximum level?
Basically I think we will definitely close at the maximum level. I think it's accelerated this week as we started going out with communication, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah.
And
is there a stop date for
13th of October.
13th?
Yep.
Okay.
So I hope you're interested and want to join us on this journey. I think as I say, it's an exciting journey. I've got to say. I mean, I remember when I met Marit the first time. I remember I didn't look at Marit. I looked at the machine, and as soon as I did that, I realised there was something special here, because it changes this perception thing. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I must say that the first time I myself came in contact with AddMovement and saw the chair was actually in a video online. Showing this former elite skier, Thomas Fogde, trying the chair out. And I think we should show that video because it really tells it all. Like you said, it changes people. So
it says it all.
Check this out.
Fan vad coolt. Det är ju lite spooky så. Men det är hur coolt som helst. Ja, underbart. Vad lätt det är. Testa hur fort den går. Jäklar. Jag trodde det skulle vara svårare. Jag ser ju idag, istället för att behöva ta bilen till kontoret, så skulle jag kunna använda den här och åka in till kontoret. Kunna lämna bilen, få använda den här fantastiska friska luften som vi har. Och göra en tur istället för att behöva tvinga in mig i bilen. Allt har ju blivit så speciellt sen, alltså med barnen. Det är helt plötsligt så kommer man till situationer där jag får göra nya avväganden, och där de avväganden känns lite taskigt. Dels mot mig själv, men framförallt mot barnen. Där energi någonstans har tagit slut. Där jag känner att ska vi åka upp till lekparken? Nej fan, det blir ett för stort projekt. Men har jag den här så behöver det liksom inte vara det. För då är det så lätt, men då hoppar jag upp och så drar vi iväg. Och just det här när man går med barnet till dagis, att kunna få hålla dem i handen. Jag blir nästan gråtfärdig bara jag tänker på det. Så att man kan ju tycka det är larviga saker, men som betyder oerhört mycket för mig. Så att det är ju en otrolig livskvalitetsförhöjare. Det finns ingen jämförelse som jag kan se idag i alla fall. Gränsling. Gör om, gör rätt. Får man träna på det där lite så.
It's fascinating to see how he just shines when he
exactly. And I think that's the whole thing is that and it's not just the person on the seat, it's his family, because he talks about taking the children to school. You can have a look at our website and there's videos and everything on there. But this ability for the partner to go and do other things that they can take. Marek takes the kids to school, he takes the kids to school. They can go and do whatever they need to do. They can go shopping. They don't need to be with them. It changes their lives. It gives people back, not just the person sitting on the ad seat, their life back, but their family around them, their lives back. And that, I think, is, if we could charge for that, I think we could charge 200,000 Swedish crowns for it without a problem. And people go, oh, wow, I get all these hours back. And I think that's what's so fantastic. And I say to everybody who works for us, when you go and sell this product or you demonstrate it, if you don't cry, you don't come and work for me. It's as simple as that, because it really is. There's a lot of dust in the room when you do a presentation, because you're like, you feel very emotional. I've got time. One short story.
Sure.
Yeah. We were down in Rijeka 2 years ago. There was a lovely German guy. He came up to the stand. He saw it on the Wednesday. He tried it, and he was really upset because he couldn't see how he could transfer from the wheelchair across to it. And even with variable height, so it's easier to get onto it. But he had a problem with his particular disability. Really exciting. He was so pleased. Oh, this is perfect for me. And then this problem with crossing over. So he went home on Wednesday night. Thursday came back and he started looking at it. He said, I really want this. This is fantastic. He was really angry because he couldn't now work it out. Friday was the same. He was back again on Friday. And he was getting more and more frustrated because he couldn't work out in his mind how to do this so he wouldn't hurt himself. Friday night, he didn't sleep. Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, when we opened the stand, he was there. He said, I've worked out how to do it. He comes over, literally in 2 seconds, he's transferred from his wheelchair across onto the ad seat. His girlfriend says, we buy this now. Because she could see that all of a sudden he had mobility and responsibility for himself. And that what I thought was fantastic. And that's the whole thing, is we see that it's not just the person buying the seat, it's the family make a decision as well. Because I come back to, this is not a cheap product at the moment. What we want to do, if we can scale it up, we can make it cheaper, we can make it more affordable, and we can give more people that. And therefore, when I say about 4,000 units, I think we're underestimating the marketplace. So I think it's an interesting place. But when you as I say, I come back to, if you don't cry selling this product, to be honest with you, you shouldn't be in it.
Yeah, I'm sold. So there's a crowdfunding going on at fundedbyme.com.
Yes.
And what's the next step in your business development? Are you going to go public?
Yes, we've got to. I think the companies with the scale we're going to go to, and we have to start looking at that, because and that's part of the reason the team I put together is these are guys who are from the corporate world, because we've been in this cottage industry. Now we've been in the entrepreneurial spirit of it, and now we need to become a little bit more corporate, a little bit more organised and structured, because if we're going to be selling across, in the US, Japan, we'll be over to there shortly, in Middle East, we've got to change the company, so we have to scale up.
Yeah.
But we know we have a demand for the product, we know that people want to pay for it, and if we can make it even more affordable, which was one of the things I'd like to say, is that part of the reason we have an issue is that we're at 13,000 euros, is that with personal credit, personal finance, if we can get it around to about 10,000 and below, it makes it much easier, 10,000 euros that is, it makes it much easier for things like Santander. I've spoken to them, and GE Capital. They'll be very interested in the product then, because it sits in their personal finance area as well. So that's the reason why we want to get the pricing down, because we can also get people can buy it on personal finance as well.
What's the pre-money valuation of the company?
It's 30 million.
30?
Yeah.
Okay.
29, something like that.
And the effect on the users is priceless?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and also, and as I say, an effect on me, an effect on the people who work for the company as well. One other thing I'd like to add is that the people who assemble this are actually handicapped themselves. So actually, the people who are actually assembling this for us are actually, most of them are actually handicapped. So when we're designing the product's actually designed for easy assemble by someone who's maybe got one arm, or etc. That also makes it easier for our customers, because for service and maintenance, because we know it makes it easier for them to look after their own product as well. So there's some really interesting benefits of the way we've actually put it together, which are actually benefiting our customers.
That could be an idea for a company like IKEA to take after.
Yes.
Perhaps. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
For a great presentation.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome back. I'm here together with Mike Redford, CEO of AddMovement. And this interview is actually different from the other interviews because you're actually using your product right now. So could you perhaps talk about and show us a little bit about the ad seat?
Absolutely. The ad seat we've got now is our Ferrari Red, which is very popular. We've got the curved seat here because it's actually designed for people who actually got working legs, so they can actually move it across. We have people with that, but also we have people who are actually without legs, amputees. So they have a tendency. We have a straight steering, which is really quite useful for them. The actual seat is controlled, or starting is just literally pulling up the handle after switching on, and then you can vary the height by just changing the button here, and it allows you to come up higher and lower. And we have, in this particular model, it's really quite cool because we've got alloy wheels on it and nice Ferrari red.
So how fast can it go?
Around 24 kilometers an hour.
Wow.
So, but for certain countries we have to restrict it.
Yeah.
And for most people we actually would like to restrict it because actually people, once they get going on this, they really enjoy themselves. It's great fun. And so we want to make sure that people use it safely, but it's great.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're gonna make them wear a helmet or something if they go 24 kilometers an hour?
We suggest that people should wear a helmet, but again, it's a bit like if I said to you, you couldn't have a Harley Davidson, you go, why can't I have a Harley Davidson? Okay. As a handicapped person, why can't you have something that's cool and fun and exciting? Yeah. So it's both sides, but at the same time practical. As you can see, it's a very small footprint. The actual width is basically the width of my shoulders, so it takes up very little space. I mean, we're having this interview here, we're talking, we're pretty close. Yeah. And as you can see, you're sitting on a very high bar stool. Yeah. I'm sitting on his, and we're the same eye level. And,
it must be attractive for people living in Scandinavia, with ice and snow and difficult areas to.
Yeah. I think anything where a little bit of uneven ground, cobblestones, because if you go through Gamla Stan here in Stockholm, it's very uneven ground there, and this works extremely well on there. Snow is not a problem. Ice, like everything which is a vehicle with tyres, is an issue. But generally sand is not a problem. So any grass particularly is very welcoming. And it makes it, if you compare it to a wheelchair, much easier to go with this.
Right. How much does one of these weigh?
It's around 85 kilos.
85 kilos.
And one of the great things now we've got our designer, Ian Thompson, is looking at is composites. So what we're looking at is how can we bring down the weight of the actual machine. So we can bring down the weight, because we have a lot of customers who actually take it around the world with them. We have a swimmer called Tammy Cunnington in Canada, and she actually took her ad seat down to the Rio Games last year. So she was wandering around all over Rio with the ad seat, which is really cool.
Cool, and I guess of course you're generating an international interest for this.
Yes.
What type of sales strategy do you have? Are you going to build like an in-house sales team for this, or do you use distributors, or how does that work?
What we've looked at to start with is we've actually gone for a dealer in each country, just to understand the market, make sure there's a demand for the market, because obviously they understand the handicap market better than we do in that particular country, because each of them is different. Yeah. Our view is that for the US now that we will look for a direct sales outlet. We think that's the right way of going. Yeah. For Europe, it's probably because there's so many different countries and different languages, it will be easier for us to actually use dealers and distributors in those countries. For some of the larger markets, we're thinking about Germany, we may actually go direct sales in the future, and the UK. But some of the smaller countries, it would make much more sense to be use a dealer or a distributor. Again, because we have to put the manual out in all the different languages. So there's some costs involved and everything else.
And I saw one of your slides that you said that approximately 10 million people are in wheelchairs or walking. Walk frames, both in the US and in Europe. How many would you guess is sort of your target customers of those?
Oh gosh, that's a difficult one because again, it's split down into different people who have got different economic backgrounds as well. You know, people who are getting state support. We need to have our FDA or ISO standard product. People who've got lifestyle who've got money, then it's not a problem. Then that marketplace is theirs. It's not an issue. And then we've got people who would like it but can't necessarily afford this particular machine. So we're looking at a lower price product for that. So our anticipation, we think there's an opportunity for about 1 million units without a problem. With good marketing and good design and product that's maybe more accessible for a broader group, then we absolutely, I've got no idea. I'd love to know. But as we get more and more sales, we'll find out more and more. But definitely 1 million.
What are the options when it comes to reimbursement in different countries? Is that something that you explore?
Yeah, basically we've actually found that already in Denmark we've had some response for reimbursement. What we need to do is we need to get it to an ISO standard 134085. We're working on that. And for the FDA, it will be FDA Class 2. And once we got that, it becomes easier to go into the reimbursement market. But what we've decided is we will use our lifestyle group, the people who've got money, to prove the product. It's also proven that people are willing to pay the amount of money it costs for an ad seat. I think it's very easy to come to the market and say, oh yeah, we've got this product, it's going to sell for this. But what we've done is we've actually gone out there and sold the product to people who are actually parting with their money. And these people are handicapped and maybe have lost their job because of illness or maybe their income is declining, but they're willing to invest in this product. And that to me says a lot, that we've actually got something that people go, as a family, we're willing to invest in this. At the moment, it's the price of a second car. And we'd like to make it more attractive to people. So
I read some of the customer testimonials. I mean, they're great, of course. Do you think that those are some of the people that are interested in investing now? You know, people that have actually experienced this.
I'd be honest with you. I think it's anybody who's tried it because I think once you understand it, it was interesting. We just came here to the studio, and I was sitting on the ad seat, and Morten, who was with me. I came into the studios and I said, well, how did you feel when you walked beside me? And he said, well, actually, I felt quite proud. And I said, it's exactly that. It's this sense of you feel quite proud to be with someone who's actually sitting on this, because it is quite cool. And as our designer comes from a Maserati background and Lotus cars, we're going to make it even cooler. And I think that's the other thing, is we want to give people something to go, oh, wow, this is cool to be on.
How much do you expect to sell if we say, let's say next year?
Next year we're looking at somewhere around about 200 units.
200 units?
Yeah.
And what does that translate to in terms of revenue?
It's something around 25 million.
Okay. Do you have potential challenges when it comes to scaling up manufacturing?
No, because that's the thing we've done in the last year, 2 years, is we've actually made sure that we can scale up easily. We've changed the engineering processes, we've designed for production, and we have a factory partnership where we can scale up. We could produce 1,000 units next year without a problem. So if we are successful, as we hope to be,
you're prepared for it.
We're prepared for it and beyond. And then once we even beyond that, it's not 1,000 is not a problem, but we know that we can easily scale to that. We have the staff in place, the training's in place, the people who can assemble it are already there. We know we can order, and our suppliers can supply for that without a problem. And actually, if we're at 1,000 units, our cost of production drops significantly. We've actually budgeted on 200 units as far as our costs are concerned. So if we can actually buy in at 1,000 units, our suppliers will give us significant improvement on the prices, which means we've got a bigger margin, which means we can accelerate even quicker. So there's a lot of benefits if we can scale up quicker, but we're not planning on ramping up too quickly.
No. And when you project it into the future, have you thought about what investors could expect when it comes to potential profit margins or percentages of profit of the company in the future, EBIT or something like that?
Yeah, I think what we've calculated is somewhere around about 20 to 25%. And that's quite realistic because what I've done is I've compared it to Permobil and their turnovers and their revenues and their profit margins. And I think realistically, our components are very similar. Our assembly processes are very similar. Their sales distribution route is very similar to us. US, they sell directly. Europe, they have dealers and some direct sales. So if you look at the models, they're very, very similar. Their cost of production is obviously higher because there's a lot more components in some of their thing. Our cost of production is lower. But if you look at the margins, they're very, very similar. And they're quite realistic. We've actually tested it with a few people, and even a couple of venture capitalists who've really questioned it and looked at it and they went, yeah, when the numbers stack up. So I think it's really good that we see it not just from a realistic customer point of view, from the price we're going to sell for, but I can see it from a component point of view and our assembly as well.
When do you foresee a break-even point?
We actually make money on each machine we manufacture now because we actually the way we actually pay per assembled unit.
Okay.
So we're not sitting there with any fixed costs or minimal fixed costs. So volume-wise, my suspicion is that we will be at break-even probably about mid next year.
Okay, that's very good. What would you say characterize your typical customer? Is there such a thing to start with? Common denominators like age, income level?
No, actually that's the lovely part about it is we've got an 18-year-old girl who's just tried the machine down by Lund and just fell in love with it and would be perfect for her. It would change her life. I've got an 84-year-old gentleman here in Stockholm who drives around and it's fantastic to see. We got people in New York who have tried the ad seat, or bought the ad seat, I should say. And we've got a Paralympic swimmer in Canada. We've got somebody up in Alaska. We've got MS users. We can actually convert a Segway. If someone's got a Segway, we can convert it to a seat. So we've got a lot of people who are MS where their disability gets worse. They can stand on the Segway to start with, then they need to be able to sit. So we can convert that for them when we've done conversions for people. So yes, is there a typical customer? No. I'd like it, as I say, if we can get the price down, I think we can have a broader range of people there for definite. So economically, I think our users are sort of traditional, I would say, middle class. But I'd like to have a broader church of people who can actually buy our product.
Right, and you're currently looking for financing through fundedbyme.com.
Yes.
Could you please share a few words on what you're going to use the proceeds for?
Yeah. At the moment, we're looking at the US and also for Germany. So two things that will happen. One is we will go for the regulatory TUV in Germany, for the road traffic people, and get it properly registered there. We actually have a registration, but we need to, because we have a weight limit, what we want to do is increase that weight limit to allow even heavier people. And that's very important for the US market because obviously there's a lot of vets who are ex-military and they're quite heavy by definition. So we need to increase the weight load on that. And then also marketing so that we can actually get our distribution sorted out in the US for direct sales. So we will spend our money on that. Product development, we've done most of the product development we need to do now for this phase. And then we will do another round later on when we want to move up another level with the actual product. But this product is paid for, it's designed, it's done. So we're not looking for money for that. What we're looking at is really getting the product out to more customers so we can get revenue, increase the revenue.
Right. And in the future you might be looking at an IPO or potential trade sale. I mean, what type of company would be a potential buyer of AddMovement, do you think?
Permobil is a good example, but also a company that's in the car manufacturing. We are, at the end of the day, this is a mobility product. It's not a disability product, it's a mobility product. It gets people around from A to B. So we actually see that companies, we had brief correspondence with Mercedes-Benz when they had their Moval project, which was looking at mobility for everybody. We're looking at the VTI project here in Sweden, of how we can be part of that, because obviously, you can use this instead of using a bus. I can take this into a store. I don't have to worry about parking.
Fresh air.
Fresh air, and it means the infrastructure, and it's electric.
Yeah.
So from the environment, it's really good. Yeah. So there's a lot of things we can be doing. We can take it out into a broader church of people, which I think is rather exciting.
Yeah. What type of milestones can investors expect, in the next year?
I think the key thing is for us is we see the FDA regulation coming in and the ISO 13485 for definite. Yeah. That allows us to get into the reimbursement market, which obviously that's where Permobil live, and they're a very profitable company because they're in that space. So that's a very good place for us to be. But I also think we have this good product, this lower price product that Mr. and Mrs. Svensson, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Mr. and Mrs. whoever can Smith in Germany, whatever, can actually afford to buy without necessarily hurting their savings. Yeah. And we see that as a very key milestone for us. But US definitely with direct sales, and probably even into Japan by then.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.